Hi loves, it's Lacey and welcome to our space. So today's video is going to be a dupe of this nutcracker right here that I saw online, and I looked everywhere for it in every HomeGoods, TJ Maxx, and Marshalls because that's where everyone said they got them. And when I couldn't find it, I bought stuff to make my own. And then lo and behold, this past weekend, my husband and I found it. Now this one is made of little clear diamond shaped gems that are plastic that are in silver rings that are welded together, and then the entire body is welded on a silver bigger ring frame. It also has a marble bottom on it, so it is heavy, very heavy. It is by the company Rachel Zoe, and it costs $29.99 for this size. Now they do come a little bit smaller, and they come a whole lot bigger for that size. Now the thing I didn't know about this, because I couldn't find it anywhere, is that these little diamonds have the flat front part on the inside of the nutcracker, and the pointy part is facing outward. Had I known that, I would have bought the same kind of gems to make this, but I didn't know that at all. So the items I bought, I'm going to share with you in a second, and I'm still going to try to make this even though Christmas is past. Now, all the materials and the measurements that I use for this will be linked in the description box down below at the end of this video. But let's get started and let me show you what I use to make my version. First of all, I have this very large sheet of plexiglass. It came from Hobby Lobby, and it is 1 millimeter thick. This was already in my stash because I'm not going to be welding anything together. I had to come up with a way to make sure everything would stand up. Next, I have some recycled or trash, and it is because it has a clear plastic set to it. Is a cheese ball bucket that came from Ollie's store, and I had that in to go with recycle. So I'm going to be using this inner portion that has the clear plastic because when I tried to use the 1 millimeter plexiglass from Hobby Lobby, it would bend around and snap because I tried to make it into the smaller sections like the arms and the legs and the torso and the head. So now let me show you the other items we're going to be using, starting off with this Favorite Findings buttons. Yes, these are buttons. It says it has 178 buttons in a pack, and they're from Joann's. On the back, it states that they are 16 millimeters, and you're going to need 6 packs of these. They look like this. They are like a crystal on the front, and they have 2 eyelets in it, and on the back, they are silver. They are silver, so you can't see through to the other side of the buttons, and they are almost flat on the back, so they'll work perfect for this project. Then I have 2 of these packs of larger silver rings. Now there are 2 in each pack, so we're going to be using 4 all together, the 2-inch, the 4-inch, and the 5-inch ones. Also, I have 2 of these double rings that are actually keychains that my husband have, and they are 2-inch in diameter rings. We're going to need 2 of those. One of those double packs I already had in my stash, and then I ordered the other ones, and it still needed 2 more rings, so I'm using those. Also, I have 4 of these clear plastic tubes that come from Cricut vinyl that have a bottom on them. Now, I know most people won't have those, so here's your option for that. These are some plexiglass that you can bend all the way around in a circle, as you can see on Amazon, and they're fairly cheap that you could use for that instead. Or you can use some more recycled or trash that you might have that is clear plastic. This has a sticker on it that will come off easily because it's only glued on one side, unlike the Cricut tubes that are glued all the way around, and the bucket that came from Ollie's that has a lot of glue on it. So these are the items I'm going to be using. A lot of it I already had, or it was free to me because it would have been thrown away. Now, warning, I'm going to say this once. I use a pocket knife, and I use a Ryobi heavy-duty tool glue gun for my tools. And so it gets the glue really, really hot, and you can burn yourself real bad, or you can cut yourself with the knife. Just a warning, be careful. Here is the plexiglass. So I had a bunch of the Hobby Lobby plexiglass. Here's the leftover piece that I had. I'm going to show you how to cut it, or how I cut it. I just measure out what I need on here, and I'm going to be cutting it with an X-Acto knife, my Ryobi X-Acto knife. I have a lot of Ryobi tools. On the back, I leave the protective plastic, and then I took it off the front, and I'm taking a Dollar Tree ruler, and I'm just going to glide along the line and press down real firmly, and we're going to go over it about 3, 4, 5 different times. I have my plastic on the back of this so I won't cut through my table. You may want to put down a cutting mat. We're going to be using this to cut the hat and the chest or body portion of this. Once you have it scored, you're going to snap it apart. Make sure you wear safety glasses here. You need to have on safety glasses when you're snapping the plexiglass. And then you're going to use these pieces for the hat and the body portion. Next, we're going to move on to cutting out this center section that's going to be the face and the torso section. I was going to use the plexiglass. I have that here for the face and the torso section, but if you bend this too small, it will break when you glue it. I tried it twice. It broke both times, so we are using some recycling from my house. I'm using my heat gun, and I'm moving it back and forth. Don't hold it in one spot for any time because it will melt. And then I'm using a Ryobi pocket knife because it's really thick and I'm not very strong. You can use a rotary tool like a Dremel Ryobi or a drill and drill in just enough to get some scissors in there. I switch to my kitchen scissors here in a second, which are my Cutco scissors, and it can handle the plastic with my little weak arms and weak hands. Then I just cut up the seam. There's a clear seam on this, and I'm going to then cut around and get the rest of the clear plastic through. The sizes for this are going to be 1.5 inches and 2 inches. So this is enough for that. And I'm using my Cricut paper cutter to cut a straight edge that's just cutting off a little bit of the excess from one side, and then measuring out the sizes I need and cutting the other side. Now, you put the straight edge at the top and the bottom on the same number, and the other side will definitely be even on the non-straight edge when you cut it. I had it on the wrong side, so I had to flip mine over and then press down and cut it. And I have my two pieces that have the sides, the long pieces, perfectly straight. The other ends don't need to be straight because we're going to double them over anyway. But if you want to make them straight, you can. Then I'm taking my Ryobi heat gun, and it has two settings. I'm on the low setting, and I'm moving it back and forth in front of it and peeling it, and it comes out pretty easy. Just don't hold it in one spot too long. It will melt it. So I have 4 of these tubes that I've done, and we're going to keep 2 of them together for the legs with the bottom of them. And then the other 2 will be the arms, and we will be cutting those. But let me show you how the pattern is here on the Nutcracker. These are straight up and down stacked, but we are going to do ours differently because you would be able to see through the other side if we do them straight up and down. So I'm putting down a drop of hot glue, and then I am taking my buttons and I'm putting them all on with the eyelets facing the same direction all the way around. I found it easier just to do them all in a row. So there's only 2 eyelets and 10 buttons fit all the way around the bottom of this if you're using the same items that I use, or if you use 16mm gems. But now when you go to the second row, we're going to start our first button with the eyelets going the same direction in between 2 of the buttons on the bottom row. And this will still keep 10 in each row, and then we're going to go up the number of rows that I'm going to have listed in the description at the end. So I just am going to show you how I'm putting them on. 1 drop of glue, and then I do have nails, so I'm not actually getting my fingers near the hot glue. You can use fingers protectors too, because I'm using the Ryobi tool hot glue gun. This is not the hobby one, and it is a very high heat glue gun, and you do not want to burn yourself. Now also I put that other bead over to the side because it's damaged. It has a little damage on it. Sometimes when they punch the eyelets through, the whole piece doesn't go through, so it's not flat on the back, but you can take some pliers and you can take off that extra piece that is in the back of that gem that is sitting there by itself. So here is the two finished legs, and it is really, really nice. I like the coloring of this and how sparkly it is. And you can see you can't see through to the plastic. Now we're going to leave them this long for two reasons. Number one, I'm going to glue the gems together, and then the top portion's going to hold the torso part. And then how I'm going to make it, you'll see in a minute, the body part will sit on it. So now we're going to make the arms. I take my pocket knife and I cut through this plastic, and then my scissors, and just cut it off, and I'm going to cut up through the middle of it. We're going to use a portion of this, 6 inches to be exact, and we're going to put it in my paper cutter again and cut down the side. Just trim a little bit of it off, like about 1 millimeter, and then we're going to cut it on the side that's already straight. So that side is straight near the Cricut words. We're going to then measure the number of inches that I need for the arms, and I think I measure 6 inches, and then we're going to cut off 6 inches of that. Make sure you put the straight side down and then cut off 6 inches of that. And then after that, I'm going to cut 1 millimeter off the other side. I'm not sure I show that, but this tube needs to meet up at each other, and I don't want them to double over and fit in that little ring that's sitting there. But before I even put that together, I am going to cut off all the excess plastic off the bottom portion of this, the closed portion that was at the bottom. We need that circle part. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to cut all the excess plastic off. You guys know that I'm extra. If you're new here, I'm extra. So I wanted to look as close to the inspiration piece that we're duping as possible. So there's an extra thick lip on that, and we don't need that. You'll see it. It'll stand out because the plastic for the arms that we're going to be putting inside that ring will not be able to set down if we don't take that lip off. So we're taking the lip off, and then it will set in there, and we'll be able to put gems inside on the top, because the top of the arms have gemstones. So since we're doing that, we're cutting the plastic for the top of the arms. This is basically the last thing we need to cut. I have the 5-inch diameter ring here. We're using the 2, the 4, and the 5 for these. 4 of each. I am tracing the inside of it, and it is on the Hobby Lobby Plexiglass. It'll work for this because it's going to stay flat. I'm going to score the circle all the way around. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you watch me do this again, the entire thing. But that's what we're going to do. I speed it up, and I'm going to do it around like 6 times. And then I'm going to score from the circle all the way out to the edge in various areas, like no more than 2 inches apart. And I'm doing this in order to take and break off those outer parts. Wear safety glasses. These little pieces of plexiglass can get in your eye, and that's an emergency room visit. You do not want to do that. So I'm putting my thumbs, as you can see, separate from each other, and then doing it on the side, and that piece will just crack off. And if you break it, if you break the circle part, don't worry about it because you'll never see it, and you can put a little hot glue on it. So then once you do all of them, you're just going to take the excess plastic that's on the back. I actually cut around this one so you can see, and get rid of it. And then you have your circle you're going to need, and it'll fit inside of that ring. And then I'm just taking and I'm sanding it with a nail file, and on the bigger sections that need sanding, I'm just pressing it down. You can use a sanding block, regular sanding paper. So here is our inspiration piece, and here are all the pieces that we need cutting up. We have this piece here that's for the hat. It's 4 inches tall. I know it should say high, but tall, and 18 inches long. It is made out of the plexiglass from Hobby Lobby. This circle, we have 3 of them. We need 3. It is made out of the plexiglass we just cut out. This is the head, we're going to call it. It's 2 inches tall, and it is 13 inches long. And then we have what we'll call the body, or the chest area, 4 inches tall and 18 inches long. It's the same width as the hat. Then we have what I'm going to call the torso. It is 1.5 inches tall or high and 13 inches long. So these are the pieces we cut out. 2 out of the plexiglass, 2 out of that bucket. And then we have the arms. We have those 2 little circles we just cut out. And the arms are a little skinnier because they go inside the ring. And then I did cut these pieces for the bottom, but I did not have enough buttons to do that, so I'm not even going to show you. I was going to melt them with my heat gun into a circle over a ball, but we didn't do it. Then we have the 2 legs that we already put the drums on so you could see, and it interrupted all this cutting because I know that was getting tedious. And we're going to glue those together and keep them the length that they are. So now I am going to show you how to make the hat. We are going to take this piece and bend it. It's going to crackle some. It's fine. It will not break. I did both of these and didn't have any problem with it. Bend it until it's tight enough that it'll fit into the circle, and then push it down. And after you push it down, open your hand slightly, and that's what I'm doing here, and let it fill into the circle. Okay? And keep pushing it down until it fills itself in the circle. Make sure it goes all the way to the edge, and then you can pick the circle up without touching it. See? That means it's the right size for the circle to sit around it. We're going to mark it with my marker here, and making sure, like I let go a little, I think, so I'm going to put it back down, and then I'm going to mark it in front of me because my face is right there, and then mark the other side where it's supposed to go. Then we're going to use E6000 and hot glue, and I'm using some super glue. Now, when I did the smaller sizes and they broke, the first time I only used E6000 glue, and it glued. I left it for hours, and then when I took it off the clamps, I'm going to use those little clamps, it just immediately broke. So I figured it took too long for it to glue together, so I decided to use hot glue and a little bit of crazy glue. I didn't put any of that down because I decided to use it in a different spot, which you'll see in a second. But first the E6000, then a few dots of hot glue so it'll hold together immediately. I bend it over on itself and then line up the dots and press it. Make sure you get it straight. I have to peel mine apart because I'm looking at the camera for you guys, and so I didn't get it straight. And then I'm putting 2 of these clips on, and then I'm going to use some of the crazy glue on the edge because it is like super glue and it will glue right away too. And then I have 2 bigger clips, and those clips are from Dollar Tree. They still sell them. I saw them at the store when I went the last time. I'm going to put 2 bigger clips on after I press it together and set these aside to completely harden and the glue to completely hold it together. So I left it for hours. I don't know exactly how many hours, but it had to be close to 8. I did this early in the day and came back and did the next part later on. And that ring looks dirty because the actual silver rings, they're dirty when you take them out. They don't feel like they're dirty, but you'll see you'll get it on your hands. And then I touched the plexiglass and I got it on the plexiglass. You can wipe it off with just a wet wipe. I didn't even bother because you're never going to see it. So I'm going to set that aside to dry. So already I have one that is dry and I put the rings on. So now I'm showing you how I'm putting the rings on. I am just setting them on my silicone mat because the glue won't stick to it. And I'm putting some E6000 around the edge. And then I'm putting this on the glue on the edge and shaking it around and pushing down lightly on that ring, and it stays. I already did it to both of these arms. I put a ring on the top and a ring on the bottom, and I had pushed that other one aside so it could harden. And as you can see, these are welded together. And because I can't weld it together, I mean, I have a soldering iron. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to show you how to do it without having to do that. I am doing it this way. I'm putting all the rings on and then putting the gems in between. So this is still going to take 10 gems because we only took off 1 millimeter so it would go around. Just make sure they're completely close together and then do your rows. And this took 11 rows in between both of those. And it worked out perfectly for me. These little rings that are on the top and the bottom of this set basically on the edge of the plastic. So I sped this all up so you can see that it's pretty cool to get them all on in a row. And it is tedious. So I'm not going to make you watch me do anymore. I went and sat in front of my TV and I did the hat and the body and the torso and the head and the other arms. And now it's time to put the plastic on. So I sanded it and I made sure it fit in there. And we're just going to take some E6000 glue and put it around. Now, if you cut yours out and it doesn't fit perfectly, just keep sanding it. If it's way too big, that means you trace the outer ring and not the inner ring. Trace the inner ring. Now we're going to put the glue on inside that inner ring because this should fit and sit on the lip of your plastic that the gems on, your plexiglass. I'm sorry, I'm calling it plastic, but I mean, it all seems like it's plastic, but this is the heavy duty plexiglass. And so I'm just going to put E6000 around the edge. And I don't even squeeze the E6000. If you've used it before, you know gravity will just pull it out of the thing. You don't want to put too much on it so it runs down. And then we're just going to set this top inside of it. And I made mine so it fits a particular way because they do lip over, the plexiglass lipped over, so it's thicker in that section. And then after, we are going to put gems on the top of the hat because the top of the hat has gems. So instead of starting in the middle to put gems on, I went around the edge. Now, will you do the arms, start in the middle if you do this exact same size that I'm doing, because one gem right in the middle, it's perfect and you can put gems around it and they all meet up. For this, I laid them out for that first, but that didn't work out. So I start from the outside and work my way in the same way I did it before. It's not going to be perfect, but it does well enough. If you look at the top of my inspiration piece, it's not even perfect at all. They're all over the place. So these, they meet up pretty well, but do them all really close together. And I had a problem with glue strings because I used this glue gun since it has a smaller nozzle and it is a little less hot of a glue gun. It's not a low temperature by any means, but it's not as hot as my big one because this is a hobby one. And so I could put down 2 or 3 dots at the same time. And I'm doing this for you guys for the camera and not in front of the TV. So I'm not looking straight down on it. I'm kind of looking at an angle. So that's why I'm like doing more than one at a time. So I can tilt it at me and you guys can still see. So you're just going to fill that completely in. And here is mine compared to the other one. It's not glued together at all. It's all just laying next to it. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. Now I got this salad plate from Target. It was only like $3, $4. I don't remember exactly. It wasn't very expensive. It's plastic. Just going to take the sticker off and use it. I could not find a marble piece that small, and I went to HomeGoods and TJ Maxx and everything, and they just didn't have one. So I'm going to be on the lookout for it still. Now you can see here the arms are shorter, and you can see the gems at the top of the arms and both of the rings. These are the rings for the legs at the bottom. So we're going to put these on, which are the keychains. But here's the hat, and I have a plastic piece at the top and one at the bottom of it. See? You can't put your hand through there because this ring is the head and you can put your hand all the way through. So I'm going to glue that ring to that bottom, and we don't have to worry about anything with it. That's how it's going to get hooked together. But this piece, as you can see, I'm taking off of the legs, only has a plastic piece at the top, and then I can glue the ring to that piece, the body. And then this piece just came off of the legs, and it fits on there perfectly if you do it the way I'm doing it. So what I'm going to do is glue the legs together first, and I marked on each one of the tubes where they sit perfectly for me and where I want to glue them together. So you don't see big gaps through. We're going to put a lot of glue in there and cover up the gaps, the little ones you see, but I'm going to use E6000 and hot glue and glue these together. You can glue them together any way you want, but since I used the keychains, I made sure the back of this is going to have the keychains parts that's not doubled. You get it? I know this is a lot. I know I have to talk through the whole thing. I'm trying to avoid everybody being confused and having a million questions because I don't know when I can get to the questions. And I'm going ahead and I'm putting this video out because all the Christmas stuff and things are going on clearance. And if you really want a Nutcracker like this and you can't find it, maybe you can find the buttons and stuff and make one for next year. And you have all the supplies. So I will tell you that all of my Joanne fabrics are out of them. So they'll be getting them back in stock though, I was told. So you can keep a lookout for them. They were half price like in November when I bought them. I think it was around Black Friday. So you should be able to get them for a decent price. And I only used 6 bags. I'm on the lookout for some more because I think I might make another one that's a little taller or another one the same size so he can have a buddy. Even though I do own the one from TJ Maxx. So I know you're like, what am I doing here? So I put on 3 or 4 different dots of E6000 on single buttons, and then in between those buttons, I put in the hot glue. So you know how they stack up 1 button and then 2 and then 1 in the rows? The 1 button's got the E6000, and then in between 2 buttons got the hot glue. And then I hold this for like 3 minutes so the hot glue can keep it straight. And I glued on the keychains on the bottom. All I did was put glue on there and stick them on because they stick to the bottom. Nothing has to slide on perfectly. And then this is a torso, and I'm just sliding it on the legs. I don't even glue it on. Not at all. It's still not glued on to this day, and I made this a couple days ago. I just am putting it on there because it sits perfectly. You can glue it on, but I want to make sure that everything is exactly how I want it before I glue that permanently, and I'll tell you why when we get to the end of this video. So then next, I have to glue the arms to what we're calling the body. This isn't difficult, but I was trying to figure out how I was going to do it because I don't want them to fall off while it's drying. And I am going to sit this on top of the legs when it's done. So they'll be up high and gravity will be pulling on them. At least that's what I thought. But I figured it out for you guys. So I'm looking at them to see where the seams are, and I'm going to put the seams on the side. And they're going to line up, the big ring's going to line up with the small rings. They're not going to be higher than it. It's going to be just like the inspiration piece. So what I'm going to do is do the same process. I'm going to put the glue on the body. And this side of it is probably where the 2 pieces of the plastic meet each other. I already put a bunch of glue on there. It's not just the 1 dot. And I'm going to rock it back and forth to make sure the glue gets on all the gems. And then once I get it in place, I'm going to hold it for like 2-3 minutes. And after I do that, I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I'm just going to kind of hang that off the side of my desk. I don't show it to you. If you get it on there and the hot glue stays, it works. And then I set it up on an apple barrel large acrylic paint bottle without the lid on it. Here's the lid. But I broke off a extra large popsicle stick from Dollar Tree and I sat it on top of there, and the arms sit perfect on my desk. So you just prop up the middle and the arms sit perfect. And now I'm going to glue the torso to that top because I told you I had 3 circles, 2 for the hat and 1 for the top of the body. So now we're going to glue the torso on. I put some E6000 on it and I put some hot glue on it, and I'm going to stand up and look down on this one and put down the torso. And you have a second to move it around because I'm using high heat hot glue. And I want it even all the way around the edge. And then I'm going to put glue on top of the ring that is the head and glue the bottom of the hat on it. And sorry, my camera shut off because the battery died. But then, as you can see, oh, I just sat it on the legs. The legs are still tall. I didn't cut them off, and I just sat it on there. I haven't glued it down yet because I wanted to make sure everything looked even and exactly how I wanted it. Now, if you saw before, my arms seemed a little bit forward, but I left them like that because then that distinguished the front from the back. And I didn't even glue it down to the base yet either because I don't want to use that base. I think it's too white and I think it's too big. So I'm looking for a smaller plate, and I'm probably going to go look at HomeGoods or something this coming weekend. But the other thing that bugged me was this little edge. You can see where I glued the top on, and I didn't like it. Not at all. And these are some of the gems that are used in the other one, in my inspiration piece. I didn't like those at all, so that's why I didn't use these for this project. You could use them if you like them, or you could try to find some on Amazon, but all the ones that I looked at on Amazon, the reviews weren't great. So then I went into my stash and I found I had these little gems. So I set those there. They're not glued down either. I think they need to be a little bit bigger. So I think when I go out this coming weekend, I'm going to get ones that are a little bigger. I think these are 10 millimeter, and I think they need to be at least 12 or 14. And it will work out perfectly. But I love it anyway. Tell me, do you like it? Would you use these small gems? Should I even bother to buy any more? Because you can see the other ring really well, and it's not cloudy. And here they are in comparison. They're the same height practically. Mine is a little more cooler tone than the other one, but I like it. I don't know. I think I might try to make one that's more in those tones if I can find some really nice clear gems that don't have bubbles or anything in it next year. But for now, I'm happy with it. So comment down below. Would you try to make this? It really isn't hard to do. It's just having the measurements for the materials that you have to do it. I'm not going to lie, it's time consuming. It takes a while for you to let all of the different sections dry with the strong adhesive that you want to use. I use E6000, but any strong adhesive will do. The majority of the time, all I was doing was putting on beads. And here it is with light shining directly on it, and I think it turned out wonderfully. So that is it for this video. Comment down below. Let me know. Do you want to see something made with the Dollar Tree white Christmas trees? Because I have a great idea. If the answer is yes, then I will see you in my next video. Bye, loves.